Hi, I'm Mark Renshaw, and this is the story of my bike. And today we have the Giant TCR. This is the bike I rode in 2012. I last rode it, I think, in the Tour de France. Didn't go to so much to plan in 2012. We had a couple of really big crashes in that race. One stage we were going down a false flat hill and Alessandro Pataki passed his knee warmers back to one of his teammates and caused probably one of the biggest ever crashes in the Tour de France, where in my mind I think we had 8 out of 9 riders in Rabobank go down that day. So it looked like a war room on the bus. But coming back to the bike, one of the nicest bikes I rode in my career. We just weighed the bike then without pedals. We're talking under the limit, so I'm sure when we put those pedals on it, put it right on the limit. A few stories around the Giant back then is, I can remember the bike being very nice to ride, obviously very light. It was kind of on that cusp where we started looking at weight advantage and what we could get from the bike. And I remember very clearly that the guys in the team, the riders, we were always really complaining about the weight of the bike. We wanted a light bike under the limit, if not on the limit. And hence the reason we've got a fully stripped back TCR. You can see the carbon underlay. I think it's only got 1 or 2 clear coats over the carbon. So you can see over the time it slowly started to fade away because it wasn't made to last to the end of the day. Amazing bike under the weight limit back in 2012 is, was very nice.
Last time we looked at your Giant connection, there was the Propel, which had been launched the year after this, and there was a big push for the aerodynamic gains and different braking mechanisms and everything. This is a full Dura spec and it's Di2. The interesting thing was we just wanted to get it into the big ring for this shoot. We pulled another battery out, popped it in, and it worked straight away, even though it's early generation with the first clunky battery.
It's been in a bag or hanging on the roof for about 9 years now, and you just plugged the battery and it worked. So quite amazing, and it was one of the first or early generations of Di2. So there's still a lot of these group sets even around here in Bathurst in the training rides still going. So, but just looking over the bike. Really the handlebars I liked, deep round handlebars, like a traditional round bar. Probably one thing a lot of people don't know is that I rode right front brake, left rear, so what you call Australian style. So if you notice on all my bikes, very different to most Europeans, so left rear. So it always made it a bit of a challenge for everyone in the team if they jumped on my bike. It was opposite for most guys. Gone back through my career, guys like Tony Martin, who are left-handed, rode similar brakes to me, but majority of the bunch ride European style. So left rear on all my bikes was a telltale it was my bike.
Okay, I was going to ask about that, but I didn't need to prompt you. You've come straight to it. Is it like 5% riding the way that you do, or? I
think now more and more, especially as we get more international riders in the pro peloton, especially from Australia. Left-handed riders generally have left rear, but from Britain and Australia, a lot of people have the same setup as me, where it's a right front. I probably learned to ride a motorbike quite early on, like most people who live in the country in Australia do. So it really crossed over, and casting back my memory, Mark Madio wanted me to change styles, so I came back one off season in 2005, flipped the brakes on the mountain bike. Had 2 crashes and said, that's it, I can't change. I'm going back to how it was, and I stuck with it the rest of my career. And I never changed, so.
Just talk to me a little bit about the actual TCR and the ISP or integrated seat post. That was a bit of a trend back in that time, but sort of Giant's one of the only companies in the mainstream that's held onto it.
Yeah, look, it was good, but it was, measure twice, cut once. That was the big factor with the seat posts like that. They had shims that you could move it up and down 1 or 2 millimeters, but obviously, back then we didn't have such great seats. We didn't really have the carbon fibre technology through the seats, so sometimes you get the seat sag, so then you'd be putting in spacers to prop the seat up. But added to the general strength of the bike and the stiffness. Looking over the bike, everything was de-stickered or rubbed back to bring it up to as light as possible. Vittoria tyres back then were, beautiful. We got the tan sidewalls. Glancing to the wheels, Dura-Race, we've got a small cassette again there, 11, probably up to a 23 there on the back. And without looking at it, I dare say I had a 54 chainring even back then. I probably should confirm. No, 53. But the thing that sticks out is just the weight on this bike and just how well they did with stripping the paint back and bringing it right down to that 6.7 kilo limit.
And just to be clear, that was a request, so this is not although it's a stock frame, they finished it differently to keep it light.
No, so it was a stock frame from Giant, but what they did, they never went into paint production. All the decals on there are just stickers, so it just got a clear coat, sticker over the top, and went straight to the team. So that was their way of cutting the weight.
And when you were battling for weight, when you did get some gains, did you all sort of celebrate? Was there talk amongst the team, oh man, I can feel the difference, that kind of thing?
Yeah, for those guys, definitely. Robert Gessink at the time was our GC rider in Rabo. Leon Sanchez. So we had some really good riders in the teams. But their big thing was weight. So they were adamant they had to have a 6.7 kilo bike.
Okay, well now that you've brought up a couple of rider names, Leon Sanchez, he earned a few stage wins for Rabobank. He was an interesting guy. He's run Tour Down Under and he seems to love Australia. What can you tell me about him?
Yeah, he's a really interesting guy. So, he's had a colourful cycling career and I think he's Spanish champion at the moment at his age, so it's quite amazing. And I remember in 2012 he was my roommate for the Tour de France. He didn't speak too much English, I didn't speak too much Spanish. But his mother was French, which, so he spoke a bit of French, so often we chat in French, which, bugged him a little bit, so he preferred to speak Spanish, but as it was in English, predominantly speaking team with most nationalities there all speaking English.
We are talking about Rabobank. Your 2012 was an incredibly interesting year for the team, it was actually quite an upsetting time for cycling, in fact. How was it being amongst that when all the revelations of earlier habits were coming out? Yeah, so that was it was just at the end of the year that they pulled their sponsorship. So I had a 2-year deal. First one with Rabobank, all good, and then we moved into the unknown where they pulled their sponsorship and paid out the rest of the sponsorship for the team at that stage. Really good team. Like if we look back now, we're comparing the team to Lotto Jumbo right now, or Jumbo Visma, what they're called. The management are all the same, the directors are pretty much all the same, the owners still the same. So they've really progressed from 2012. It's just been an upward trajectory for the team, and now they've got Roglic and they've got Kreuzvik, so many good names, but still the base management is all still the same. It's amazing to see that the team like Rabobank has transformed into Jumbo Visma, and they're now the team that many would say are stronger than Ineos. We'll just conclude this by talking about the topic that you started out on, and that is that epic crash. I think it was on the road to Metz. It was, as you say, total chaos, total carnage. How do you come back from something like that when most of the team is decimated?
Well, there was no coming back for me. I think I battled on for another 2 or 3 stages, and then I stopped the tour in stage 11. but there was many guys. I think Lawrence Tendam, there was Gesink, myself. There's I think Leon Sanchez started the tour with a broken wrist, so he sat last wheel for the first 7 days, and I think he avoided that crash because he was sitting last wheel. So it dented the aspirations for that year's Tour de France for the team, and I think on top of that crash I had 2 more the next day, and that's the hammer, the nail in the coffin. That was it. I was packed up and on my way back home.
And all these years later, when you think about that, does it give you the creeps, or how do you sort of recall it?
Well, that particular crash is still pretty vivid because we were going quite fast. It was false flat downhill. The bunch was pretty much straight across the front. Everyone vying for that final 20 kilometres, and it happened probably only 2-3 wheels in front of me. I saw Pataki take his knee warmers off, pass him back, and instead of passing it to his teammate, he stuck him in the handlebar of someone else, and that's how it all kind of started. And I was pretty much on the side of the road, and I did a few cartwheels in the grass, and so not so much a lot of skin missing, but big hits and just riders coming one after the other.
What a time, eh? Thanks for having a chat about it.
Cheers. Thank you.